Your comment just before on, I forget exactly how you worded it now, but it reminded me, I was having a bit of a stalk on your website and noticed that you're a big fan of motivational quotes. So it would be remiss of me to not ask what your favorite motivational quote is.
Oh my gosh, it's like just my like undercover way of using other people's more eloquent way of wording things and appropriating them as my own. I have two. Okay. One that's more current, like probably represents my last 18 months more accurately, is beautiful new beginnings are often disguised as painful endings. And I feel like that doesn't necessarily, it doesn't stop the fact that a lot of people will face really abrupt, painful endings. It doesn't stop the pain and the disruption of all that happening. It just allows the emotional turmoil about it to be a little bit less. And even that, if a quote can give you that, I feel like a perspective shift often is the difference between you being toppled over by something or you seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm always like, I go straight to just trusting that even if I don't see it now, there will be a new beginning eventually. And if you trust that that's going to happen, it just makes the whole thing easier to cope with, even if it's months before you see what door opened because one had to close. But I think if you look hard enough, you almost manifest that happening, and it makes the whole situation of loss easier to deal with. And then on a broader business level, it's a Maya Angelou quote: people will never remember what you said or what you did. They'll always remember how you made them feel. And for someone who literally used to spend like weeks moving punctuation around as if that mattered, my first year in business was realizing no one even reads the packet. Like the copy that you have just spent 55 hours perfecting, firstly, you're going to change that in like a couple of months when you realize like you've got to pivot that product or that packaging isn't going to work or that font or whatever. You think you're deciding everything forever, but no one remembers that. Even if they read it, they don't remember. They remember how they feel when they interact with your business. And the more that I started to focus on how do I create the feeling and all the words and, ways like pictures and logos, the delivery of that, who cares? Like that's secondary. If I focus on a feeling being consistent, like all the other decisions are easier. Whereas if you're just focusing on perfection, you often miss the feeling, and then consumers get nothing because you're so perfect, but you don't have any consistency of like experience. Whereas I notice that way more. I go back to the brands that make me feel a certain way, even if I'm like, oh, spelling mistake there, or that color's inconsistent with that color. I don't go, oh, that Pantone's different to your other Pantone or that other thing you put out there,
Yeah, I love that. And it's actually very true. I know certainly from I'm guilty of that in the early days in my business, that you're with copy and stuff, and you just realize that now, like I do tons of videos like this interview, would chop it up into a bunch of videos, and I put them online. I get all these comments that say people go, oh, I like the videos, but most people watch it without sound and there's no captions. So it's like they're either looking at what's going on or just reading the couple of like lines of copy at the top of the thing. But it's it's an interesting thing that it's so easy that you get so caught up in that, and it takes you away from it. But I'm certainly going to apply that to the next time I work on a big project, because it is easy to fall into that cycle.